Okay, it is now 5 minutes past the hour, so we are going to officially begin our virtual open house featuring the School of Law. Once more, if you have any questions during the webinar, please use the question and after tool. We will answer all of them at the end. Now, before we begin, I would like to introduce the admissions team to you. So our current admissions team is Ms. Clea Bobin, the admissions manager, and myself, Rebecca Newhouse, an admissions counselor. Both Clea and I are not from the Czech Republic originally, so we like to believe that our admissions office is uniquely positioned to help with all visa and transition needs. We know what it feels like to pick up and move to a new place, and so we're here to help you and to make that transition as smooth as possible. I'd also like to give you a few key facts about AAU. Anglo-American University is a 100% international university. We currently have students from over 80 different countries. Within that, we offer high-quality degrees to our students, by which we mean we have top professors and well-designed degrees. Well-designed in this case refers to the fact that we are less concerned with your ability to memorize vocabulary in a textbook than we are with your ability to apply your education in a real-world setting post-graduation. So we ensure through the way that we design our degrees that all students are fully capable and ready to begin work once they graduate. This is part of our interactive and applied learning, in which we use active discussions, small class sizes, and many projects and partnerships to make sure that all of our students feel comfortable in any environments, utilizing all of the knowledge that they have learned with us. Now, AAU itself is a dual accredited university. We have an accreditation with both the US through the WASC accreditation and the Czech Ministry of Education, Youth and Sports. However, the nature of the LLB program, being that it is through University of London, means that its accreditation is slightly different, and we will discuss that a little later in the presentation. Our learning environment is truly one of the best things about AAU because it's small. The most amount of people you will ever have in a class with you is 25, although for the law program, it's usually more like 5 to 10 people per class. This means that you will know everyone you're in class with, and you will have a close personal relationship with your professor, which means you will have all of the tools available to you to truly make the most of your education. We also do employ interactive learning, so it won't simply be a lecture where you sit and you learn, but you'll actually have to use the topics available to you to really make sure that you fully understand what's going on. So we like to think this helps all of our graduates to enter the workforce with real-world knowledge that they can immediately apply and that there's less of a learning curve once you're out of school. We do also offer AAU housing. We find that the housing is an excellent way for our students to immediately make friends, but it's also just a good way to ensure that you have no problems with the visa process and that you know exactly where you're located within the city. Our student housing is located in Prague 7 in a neighborhood known as Holyšovice. It has been rated one of the top 10 coolest neighborhoods in Europe repeatedly by a number of publications. It is one quick tram ride from our campus, just 20 minutes in a straight shot. You can have a single or a shared option, and all of the facilities include Wi-Fi, furniture, bedding, routine cleaning, and staffed reception and security. You do not have to live in the student housing. However, we do recommend it at least for your first semester because we do find that it's a great way to quickly understand how things work around here. At the end of this presentation, if you enjoy everything you've heard, you're going to want to apply. So how you do it is to choose your favorite program, of course, the law program in this case. You complete the online application form, which includes submitting your documents and paying the application fee of 2,000 Czech crowns. And then you will have an interview with the dean, or in this case, chairperson of the entire program, who you'll meet shortly. And if she feels you're a good fit for AAU, you join the AAU community. It's a very simple process, and we are here to walk you through it every step of the way. So with all of that being said, I would now like to turn it over to the program chair, mediator, and restorative justice facilitator, Ms. Carol-Ann Brahm. Carol-Ann?
Thank you so much for the introduction to AAU, Rebecca. Of course, my name is Carol-Ann Brahm, and I'm the chair of the laws programs here at AAU, and that's what I'm going to be talking to you today about. So I'm excited for this opportunity to share. Go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry, I couldn't hear. I had a slight issue, but we're back.
Okay, great. Hopefully everybody can hear me. All right, so I'm excited for this opportunity to share more about our law school at AAU and also to tell you a little bit about the University of London programs and how we work together. So here at AAU, we run 3 law programs, but in a way it's 4, but 3 main programs. The Certificate of Higher Education in the Common Law, the LLB, which is a Bachelor of Laws, which has both a standard entry and a graduate entry, and then of course the LLM. So next slide, please. All right, so today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the following, which is going to be AAU as a recognized teaching center of the University of London and what that means and how we work together. The structure of our undergraduate and graduate laws programs at AAU, and to tell you a little bit more about our law faculty. To explain to you how our law classes work here and how law classes in general work, what it's like to study in the common law, and then just basically what your day-to-day would be like as a law student here, as well as opportunities we have outside the classroom. So as Rebecca said, we've got quite a few opportunities for students to really engage and start using what they're learning, not just inside the classroom, but outside as well. You can see a picture of one of our annual moot court competitions that we host, in which we generally have teams coming from around the world to compete here at AAU. And we always have at least one AAU team competing as well. So it's an excellent opportunity to get to hone your legal skills a little bit more. Then I'll talk to you a bit about tuition and registration at AAU and University of London, including some scholarship opportunities that might be available. And then, of course, probably what you're wondering is what's the benefit of this degree, either an undergraduate or a graduate law degree beyond graduation. So we're a bit of a unique program. So I'll explain a little bit more about why this can be a very valuable degree on your career path. All right, so next slide, please. So the first thing I want to talk to you is about the University of London, their laws program, and how it works here at AAU, because I would say in many ways we're not traditional, and we teach a very unique program here. So while we're of course located in the middle of Prague in Czech Republic, we are not actually teaching Czech law. We are teaching the law of England and Wales because we are a recognized teaching center of the University of London. So you might be wondering how this works. So first of all, the University of London is actually what's known as a consortium of universities. So in a way, it's an umbrella that covers several universities, including some of the top universities in the UK and the world. So this includes King's College, UCL, Queen Mary, Birkbeck, and of course, some others as well. So we've got some quite prestigious UK universities that are included within this consortium. And the benefit of that is that many of the professors who are teaching at those universities are working to write the content for these law programs. So the law program, while it's being taught here at AAU, generally is of the same caliber in terms of the content that's being taught as you would receive in some of those other universities in the United Kingdom. There are also other recognized teaching centers around the world. That's one of University of London's unique aspects, is that it has a worldwide footprint in a way, and it has recognized teaching centers like AAU, not only in Europe, but across the world. So when you join this program, you're joining classmates and colleagues from around the world. Many of them, of course, are here at AAU, but many of them are other teaching centers as well. And that's often where we have our opportunities to collaborate, and we'll have teams, for example, at the moot courts from other teaching centers coming here to compete at AAU. So it's a great opportunity not just to connect with other students here, but to reach out and connect with students who are studying the same law program as you, but all over the world. So the opportunity for collaboration, learning, and networking is really incredible. So here are students who are, first of all, in just a few minutes, I'll talk to you about the certificate program. And students enrolled in the certificate program are required to attend classes at a recognized teaching center. LLB students, of course, can technically study independently. It is a very rigorous and challenging degree. So many students do choose to study at a teaching center so that you can attend classes, you can know your instructors, you can have study groups with your peers, you can use our library resources. There's many, many advantages, of course, to studying at a university opposed to studying alone. Many jurisdictions, or another reason that it's important to consider a teaching center is that many jurisdictions do require law graduates to have actually studied in person at a university in order to sit for bar exams, do their articles, or engage with the processes to become a practicing lawyer. So here at AAU and the University of London as well, we do our best to explain to the jurisdictions that you were a full student studying in class, and it was not an online law degree. Being a recognized teaching center means that we have met the University of London's high standards of teaching and administration in the recognition framework. Therefore, we have been permitted to enter into an agreement with the University of London in order to fully teach and support the LLB certificate program and the LLM. So this formal recognition by the University of London basically means that we are in regular contact with the university. I'm certainly in weekly contact with various people at the University of London, if not in daily contact, in which I can help resolve issues for students. If they do arise, I can make sure that we are fully aware of all updates. Basically, anything that needs to be communicated, I'm directly communicating with the University of London. So we do receive a range of guidance and support directly from many of their teams there at Senate House in London. Since our students are enrolled at both AAU and the University of London, which does mean that in addition to the application to AAU, LLB students and LLM students also need to submit an application to the University of London, which we can fully help with and explain. Certificate students do not. Their application actually goes directly through me to the University of London. But I think it's important to recognize that there's application processes and then registration processes, as well as tuition, of course, to both of the institutions. But I think the benefits are well worth it. Because the students do have the benefit of the resources, including extensive online research databases, such as Westlaw and LexisNexis. If you're not familiar with these are, as I've said, incredibly extensive, covering cases, statutes, books from all over the world. And so they're quite valuable to lawyers and of course to law students as well. And then you get the support and you're part of the community of both universities. So graduates will also go on to not only be a graduate of AAU, but to also join the extensive University of London alumni network. I'm not sure if you know this, but Nelson Mandela studied this very same LLB with the University of London while he was in prison in 1962. He was unable to finish the degree under the circumstances, but nonetheless, the alumni network of LLB and LLM graduates is excellent and worldwide. All right, so let's see, I think next slide, please. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to start with a bit of an overview and then I'll really work down specifically into each one of the programs. So I'm going to tell you a bit more about the structure of our programs here. They are either 2, 3, or 4 years, depending on which program, as I'll explain. And students generally take 4 main courses each year, as well as an AAU support course. This does vary from program to program a little bit. But our AAU support courses, as you can see here on the right-hand side of the screen, are designed to really develop and enhance the skills, that our graduates will need to become successful lawyers. So we want you to graduate from AAU and University of London, not only with the core knowledge that you need, as in criminal law, contracts, property law, and some of your main law courses, but we want you to leave AAU, and this is something that's in addition to the University of London. We want you to leave AAU with skills that you can use and really hit the ground running once you go on to hopefully practice law after your degree. So some of our courses, as you can see, include cross-cultural negotiations, dispute resolution, moot court, we've got evidence, legal ethics and professional responsibility, legal research and writing. So we've tried to create quite a wide range of courses that we believe will help our students have the skills and the knowledge they need to be successful practicing lawyers. Back to the law courses for the University of London. Since the program is administered by the University of London, the students will take their examinations in May and June, normally with the possibility of October. And these are then administered and graded by the University of London. So in normal times, when we're all on campus as usual and outside the circumstances of a pandemic, the students will actually go to the British Council, which is just around the corner from AAU here in Prague, and they'll sit their examinations there. And then the examinations are sent to the University of London, where they're graded. So you're being graded more or less against students around the world and in the United Kingdom. So the standards are quite high. It's a rigorous program, but it's a valuable program because the standards are intentionally kept high. Once you graduate, the students are then able to attend the University of London graduation in London, which really is quite an event. Actually, Her Royal Highness, the Princess Anne, who is Queen Elizabeth's daughter, is the Chancellor of the University of London, and as she's been since 1981, and she oversees the graduations. Just a few years ago, one of our LLB graduates from AAU was selected as part of a small group of students out of hundreds of graduates attending the ceremony to have a private audience with Her Royal Highness. So that was quite an incredible experience and an honor for our student. Of course, you can attend the graduation at AAU as well. So as I've said, you are fully a member of both communities and your achievements are celebrated by both of our institutions. So coming back to Prague, our students fully attend classes here on campus at AAU. So our instructors are qualified lawyers and legal academics, mostly from common law jurisdictions. So that's, for example, the United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the United States are some of the main ones. But we also have qualified lawyers and academics from across Europe as well. Many of our instructors are practitioners who have or work for established law practices here in the Czech Republic and abroad. Which is great for networking. Many of our students do go on and work with our instructors, either in internships or after graduation as attorneys. So that's something that we find very important, that we are able to get to know our students know our instructors, and we're able to help them not only with their subjects, but also with their professional development as well. So our classes are quite small, as Rebecca said. Normally in the law school, I would say it's anywhere between 5 and 15 students in a class. For us, this is really important because our instructors are really able to get to know our students, helping them improve their strengths and develop in areas where they aren't as strong. This enables us to deliver much more personalized instruction to our students. For me, as chair of the program, I also appreciate that when I'm asked to write letters of recommendation for our students and graduates, I really can write personalized and honest recommendations because I've gotten to know the students quite well. And then I also stay in touch with our graduates who actually make up quite a strong alumni network, with many of our graduates remain committed to and active with AAU. Many of them have stayed in Prague as well. So this brings a lot of possibility for our current students for internships and mentoring and really just learning from them. So each of our courses is taught in a seminar style where instructors guide students in a conversation about the cases and the materials they've read. So a common law education is a little bit different than what you might find in a civil law jurisdiction or in other types of non-law classes, because this education requires students to read many court decisions. But it's not a bad thing, because these can be fascinating, because what you're reading is not just the law, but you're reading the story behind the case, what happened to the people, then how the judges come to their decisions, and how these decisions might shape not only the law, but society. So a lot of the discussion is surrounded surrounds how the law will impact people's daily lives and society. So students are certainly not memorizing laws and statutes, which might be the case in a civil law legal education, but rather we're exploring the facts of the individual cases, the decisions of the judges, and then, as I said, how they impact larger society. So our students learn to understand how law develops and how it impacts people in the real and everyday lives. So you can imagine, especially with students from all over the world, we've got some pretty dynamic and riveting conversations going on in our classes. And it really, I think, keeps it interesting and keeps it fun in many ways for our students and our instructors. All right, so now I'm going to explain to you a little bit about the Certificate of Higher Education in the common law, and then I will talk about the LLB and the LLM. So here in the certificate program, this can either be a standalone program, or it's what I would consider kind of a steady entrance into the LLB. So the certificate students take basically the first 4 classes of the LLB, as you'll see in just a moment, but those, instead of taking them in 1 year, they take them in 2 years. And there's several benefits of this. They are able to take extra classes at AAU. So maybe if this is particularly good for students who maybe have an interest in international relations or business or journalism, one of the other programs we have at AAU, but they like law as well. So this gives them the opportunity to take law classes, but also take classes in those other programs as well. We have several students in the law school who are actually doing both degrees. This of course takes longer, and it's a bit of a juggling, but they're able to take the certificate program, for example, where they take maybe 2 or 3 law classes per semester, and then they're taking 2 or 3, depending up to 5 total, classes from another school as well. So they're simultaneously working on 2 degrees. So as you can see here, in the first year, the students take criminal law and legal systems and method, and those are both University of London courses. And then in addition to that, they take courses at AAU. So this can be foundations of law, legal English, legal research and writing, and then an AAU elective, which might be composition to help the writing further, or it can be another AAU elective, depending on how their writing is. Those classes, as I've said, run a whole year long. So of course, we're broken into a semester basis, just like the rest of AAU, going from September or very end of August to the middle of December. And then in the law school, we pick up a little bit earlier than the rest of the university, and we generally start in mid to late January. And that is so our courses can finish by the very end of April as students begin to take their University of London exams in May and then into June. So we're a little bit different. But as you see here, you can see the first full year courses, and that's because our classes generally do run for a full year, even though they're semester at a time. Then in the second year, you can see they take public law and contract law. And then they get a little bit more of flexibility in their choices, and they can take some AAU support courses such as moot court or legal ethics, and then they can take 1 to 2 AAU electives per semester. So it's really quite a dynamic way to get into law a little bit more and start studying law, but also getting to take other university classes as well. So it's quite a well-rounded experience. Another benefit of this program is that the University of London exams can be quite challenging and quite intense. So this allows students to take 2 exams at a time rather than 4 exams at a time whenever they are first starting out and first understanding how law works. So this enables students to really focus on earning very good marks on their exams and not having quite as much pressure as they would be going straight into the full LLB. All right, so I think next slide, please. Thank you. So the LLB, as you'll see in just a minute, actually has 2 entry points. We have both the standard entry, which is more for undergraduate students who do not have a previous degree. And then we also have a graduate entry, which is, of course, for students that have a degree in something other than law and are now coming to study law, which I will talk about in just a minute. As you'll see in the LLB, the first year is again the same as the full certificate program. It's criminal law, legal systems and methods, public law, and contract law. Then in addition to each of these 4 core courses that are also University of London courses, students do generally take 1 AAU support class each semester as well. In the first year, of course, we recommend legal English in the fall and then legal research and writing in the spring. In the second year, students often do take legal ethics and professional responsibility, or they take negotiations or moot court or some other options. Right, so you may see that if you look on the University of London website, which of course we can fully direct you there as well, you may notice that they do not now require a few courses, such as property law, equity and trusts, EU law, and I think a few others. There has been a recent change. It happened, I suppose, about 2 years ago, if my memory is correct now, 3 years ago, where in the United Kingdom, they changed their framework for law degrees. There used to be something called a law qualifying degree, which meant that if students took this type of degree, which had certain required courses, then they were more or less automatically on the path to become a barrister or solicitor. Not a guarantee, but they're on the path to become one in the UK. However, the United Kingdom has more or less done away with this law qualifying degree framework. And so in place of that, there is general consensus that there still needs to be courses that are known as the 7 Foundations of Legal Knowledge. And those are criminal law, public law, contract law, torts, EU law, property law, and then jurisprudence and possibly equity and trusts. So these courses then are required often by the boards of bar examiners or professional courses and law firms. So while they're not required by the University of London, here at AAU, we generally do strongly recommend them so that when our students leave with the LLB, they are leaving with the most powerful, if you will, degree that they can. So we don't want any students to leave and have an unpleasant surprise that they needed to take a course that they did not take at AAU. So we are very conscientious about trying to ensure that our students are leaving having taken all of the courses they need. That's another reason that as our support courses, we have courses like evidence and legal ethics and professional responsibility, as these are generally tested and required by either bar exams, articles, or LPC courses. So we want to make sure that we give our students the option to have a foundation in those courses as well. All right, let's see. Okay, I think next slide, please. Right, thank you. So as you can see, the graduate entry is just a little bit shorter than the standard entry of the LLB. It's generally done in 2 years. It can be extended to 3 years. You don't have to accomplish it in 2 because it is quite rigorous, especially in the second year. This entry into the LLB is designed, of course, for students who have a previous degree. In this program, they take criminal law, public law, and contract law, which are the similar courses to the first year of the LLB. But they do not take legal systems and methods, and instead they take torts, which is also normally a second year course for standard entry LLB students. And then they often take the AAU support course of legal English and then legal research and writing. In the second year, students take EU law, property law, jurisprudence, equity and trust, and then 1 elective. And I just realized that I forgot to discuss the electives in the standard entry LLB, but that's quite all right. I can walk you through them now. In both the graduate entry and the standard entry of the LLB, there are a series of electives that students can take. In the standard entry program, in their second year, they take 1 elective, and this can be something like commercial law or international protection of human rights, or family law. There's kind of a series there. And then in their second year, and it's similar in the graduate entry program, they are allowed 1 elective, and it would be in the same group of electives. They can take anything ranging from company law to international commercial law to, let's see, there's alternative dispute resolution, public international law, labor law in the global context, and many others. One of those choices can also be dissertation, in which students can choose to write a approximately 10,000 word paper on a kind of very advanced legal topic. And so that is also an option for students who value having a writing sample. And I suppose another benefit of that is that they don't then have to take an additional exam. So we do have quite a number of students that choose that option as well. The only caveat that I tend to give incoming students about choosing the graduate entry LLB program is that there are jurisdictions, Canada, for example, and the United States as well in many circumstances, that does want law graduates to have had a 3-year law degree. So in this situation, it would be better, or for students who are hoping to practice, for example, in Canada, it's certainly advisable for them to do the standard entry 3-year LLB instead of the graduate entry, even if they already have a previous degree, because the jurisdiction, Canada, for example, will want to see a full 3-year law degree. Of course, this certainly just depends on what the students hope to do with their law degree after graduating, but it's something that we always advise students about. All right, so that is kind of wrapping up the certificate program and the LLB. As you can see, or hopefully as you saw, students that begin with the certificate program can choose to go into the LLB. And if they take that path, they do 2 years in the certificate program, and then they go on and they finish the final 2 years of the LLB program. So they graduate with their LLB in 4 years rather than 3. But of course, they also had the opportunity to take a wide range of courses at AAU. So they graduate not only with a law degree, but with a transcript that demonstrates that they had a well-rounded education with more courses as well. All right, so next slide, please. Thank you. So our final program that we have here at AAU is the Master of Laws, also known as the LLM program, or as University of London calls it, the postgraduate laws programs. So this is a graduate degree that's meant not only for lawyers. It is very common for lawyers to pursue this degree, of course, but it's also open for people with other backgrounds as well, such as business or international relations, or really quite a myriad of options there. Now, it's a little bit of a complex program at the University of London, so I'm going to simplify it a bit for you. For anybody who's interested in it, I'm very happy to talk about it in more depth and explain things a bit more. So the Masters of Law at University of London basically has 3 pathways or 3 points of entering the program, and it has what's known as a nested structure. So this means that the 3 pathways are starting with the postgraduate, so the PG stands for postgraduate, certificate, the postgraduate diploma, or the LLM. Students with a law background can, or with an LLB or an equivalent, can go straight into the full LLM. Students who don't have a law background will often start either with the postgraduate certificate or the postgraduate diploma. Now, the nice thing about this is that in the end, it does not matter which program you started with. The time it takes to achieve the full LLM is the same. So if you enter at the postgraduate certificate level, you need to complete 5 of their modules. The LLM as a whole requires 16 modules. So the postgraduate certificate, you begin and you take 5 modules, and then you are able to move into the postgraduate diploma. And then you would need to take 5 more, because the postgraduate diploma requires completing 10 modules. Then upon completing 10 modules or the postgraduate diploma, then you are able to move directly into the LLM and complete the remaining 6 modules that are necessary. As I said, it's a bit of a complicated system, so it's something that I can explain more in depth as needed, of course. But just to give you a bit of an overview. So it really means that students can enter into any of these pathways and complete the whole program in the same amount of time, which can be as little as 1 year or 2 years or more if needed. So it's a good program as well for students who might be working and pursuing their careers, but also wanting this additional qualification. Another benefit of these 3 pathways kind of takes us over into the right-hand column where you see the specializations. The University of London has approximately 30 different specializations that students can possibly get. And on top of that, students could presumably get a specialization at each of the 3 pathways. So you could get a specialization at the postgraduate certificate level, a specialization at the diploma level, and then a specialization for the whole LLM. This would take a lot of planning and a lot of strategy to make sure you take the right courses or right modules, but it can certainly be done, which means then you would leave with 3 different specializations out of the LLM. Here at AAU, we offer 2 primary specializations. These are international intellectual property law and law and development. And then underneath, you can see the 4 main courses that are required for each of those specializations. Each of those courses would then have 4 modules, and then that's how we get to the 16 total modules. I don't have those written here, but you can certainly see those listed and then also explained on our website at AAU. So in addition to these specializations, it is also possible to get specializations such as a human rights specialization or international law or international business law, commercial law. There's quite a range that would also possibly fall into these courses. And again, I'm happy to explain that further for any students who are interested. All right, so next slide, please. Right, so finally, I think it's finally, we have many opportunities outside of the classroom here in the law school, and not only in the law school, but at AAU in general. So I will talk today about the opportunities specifically for our law students, but it's just important to know that our law students can engage with many of the different clubs, activities, events that are going on at AAU as a whole. So you're not only limited to law, but you can definitely branch outside of that as well. So in addition to classes, we've got some very interesting opportunities for our students, and these are really aimed at helping them develop their legal skills and to engage with other law students and practitioners from around the world. First of all, we have a student and faculty run law journal called Per Curiam, where student editors speak and they negotiate directly with authors of legal texts who are most often practicing lawyers and judges. And then they help to organize and edit the articles and get them ready for online publication. We have a faculty member at AAU who oversees this entire process, and so is very instrumental in helping and putting this together. Many of our students undertake internships at law firms, companies, and NGOs, both in Prague and around the world. Several have found internships through connections with our alumni and our instructors, as I mentioned before. So we're very proud of the strong foundation and connections we're able to build for our students both in and outside of the classroom. Because of course, we're in a very unique position, and so our students are as well. Considering our students are studying the law of England and Wales, but here in Prague, and many, if not certainly most of our students do not speak Czech. So it's not quite the same for them to find opportunities as it would be for a Czech-speaking Czech law student. That's a little bit more natural for them to work for a Czech law firm, for example. So our students often do need to be a bit more strategic and perhaps creative in terms of finding opportunities. But they often find a very nice either internship or work home in international law firms that are based here in Prague, or international companies, as I've said, NGOs. So we find that many of those do value the UK law degree and that common law knowledge, because they have clients and companies and et cetera, who are either working with people in common law countries such as the UK or the US, or they maybe are hoping to do business there. So our students are able to provide valuable knowledge of the legal system and just their legal knowledge and understanding of how the common law system works, so that we find that it's quite highly valued here. Our students are quite rare. Most students here are studying Czech law, of course, so finding students who know the common law is, I think, quite a rare gem. At least we hope so. It is also possible, in addition to internships, it's possible for our students to attend summer sessions in London or to study with another University of London teaching center as an exchange, possibly. This is something that we do on more of a case-by-case basis, so it can be a bit more tailor-made depending on the student's interests and where they would like to go. Students who go to study in London for a summer are then able to study with the same instructors and professors who are writing the content and who are helping to administer the LLB program. So it's a great opportunity to go to London, to get to know the professors there, to get to go to Senate House, where the University of London is based, and just to get to enjoy that side of their program. Recently at AAU, we took part in the University of London's worldwide conversation that was based on 150 years of women in higher education at the University of London. So we had guest speakers from not only the Czech Republic, but from the United States and Zimbabwe, who were at AAU speaking about the importance of women's education. And as you can see, it was titled Moving Female Empowerment Forward Globally. And then we were included in what was an award-winning publication put out by the University of London about this event. And several of our students actually flew to London to be part of the event there as well. So we do really try to keep our students connected with opportunities and events, not only here at AAU, but also going on at the University of London as well. As I mentioned earlier, and you can see another picture here, AAU hosts an annual international moot court competition. I will say this past year, because of COVID, it was a little more national. It was more AAU based, but we hope very, very soon to get back to it being an international moot court competition. So we have teams from the UK, the US, Europe, Africa, Asia, really all over, who have traveled to AAU to compete in this competition. In addition to this, we've had judges that range from practicing attorneys to judges on international tribunals in The Hague who have come to AAU to judge our moot court competitions. So this gives students opportunities for networking, engaging with the legal process in as realistic a process as possible, as well as to build connections with law students from around the globe. In addition, one year, in addition to the moot court, as part of an international human rights conference that was held at AAU, we also held a mock truth commission, and we invited former dissidents and political activists from communist Czechoslovakia, or then communist Czechoslovakia, of course, to speak with our students and actually engage with the truth process. We had students from the School of Journalism, Media, and Visual Arts create very moving art pieces that we use to remember and honor the victims of crimes committed during the communist period. So we really want to ensure that our students not only learn the law, but they learn how law functions and impacts people's lives as well. So to us, kind of having a more holistic approach can be very important. All right, so this is quite a lot about our law program and really what life is like at AAU in the law school. So now I'm just going to talk very briefly about tuition and registration at the University of London, for example. You can find much more about the tuition on our website and on University of London's, and we are happy to provide a full breakdown of the tuition fees at both of the institutions as well, including when you would be expected to pay those throughout your degree or throughout your studies. So students do apply to and register with both AAU and the University of London. And I'm not sure if we're on a different slide, actually. We might be. Okay, we'll keep it there and then I'll talk about that. So this means that students pay tuition and fees to AAU and the University of London. I find it very important to stress that because I don't like unpleasant surprises. And of course, I don't want any of you to have any unpleasant surprises either, including being expected to pay more than you thought originally. So I really want all of our applicants and students to come into the program knowing what the costs will be and knowing when they are expected to pay and how much. I think planning and knowing what you are getting into is extremely important. So while there is tuition that's expected to be paid to both institutions, the tuition is still very affordable when you compare it to many universities in the UK or the US, especially when you add in the cost of living in cities like London or New York. So of course, you know, who wouldn't want to study in an incredible city like Prague, which has seen such, I would say, monumental legal developments in the recent and distant past, and also at a fraction of the cost as you would pay in one of the bigger cities in the world. All right, so I suppose one of the burning questions is always, okay, I come to AAU, I get this degree from the University of London, then what? So, and that's a very good question. Our students graduate with a thorough understanding of the common law and how it functions, and obviously a very high level of English language proficiency, but they've also studied and lived in a civil law jurisdiction. So in many ways, we feel like they have a foot in both worlds. They've got a unique perspective of how both legal systems work. In this sense, they can often navigate both systems, both the common law system and the civil law systems, and they're able to use their knowledge and understanding to kind of bridge between the two systems. This can make them quite valuable to employers, particularly international law firms, companies, organizations, as not many lawyers understand how both the common law and civil law systems work and function. Especially as more and more companies and firms are operating internationally, lawyers who can understand different jurisdictional approaches are quite valuable. And many contractual and commercial law provisions actually come from common law doctrines. So even for our graduates that stay in the Czech Republic, their UK law degree is quite valuable. The Czech Republic a few years back introduced a system of trust law, for example, and they lifted that directly from Quebec, or close to directly from Quebec, as I understand it. Quebec is, of course, civil law, so it's not the common law system. But that's one example of how different laws have been, taken or modeled from other jurisdictions as well. Of course, this LLB puts graduates on the path to becoming barristers and solicitors in the UK, and possibly many other common law jurisdictions, including countries with British legal traditions. Our students have had their University of London LLB recognized in jurisdictions such as Canada and Israel. And this is our AAU graduates. Many have gone on to master's degrees, including multiple master's degrees, actually, such as LLMs in the UK, the US, and across Europe. And although the University of London LLB does not enable students to practice law in the Czech Republic directly, because of course only a Czech law degree would do this, always important to know that only certain law degrees more or less put you on the path to practice in certain jurisdictions. However, many of our students have continued, or our graduates have continued living and working in the Czech Republic in international law firms and companies. Some have started their own businesses here. So it's a very versatile degree that can open many doors and paths for our graduates. All right, so that's all for me today. I hope that this has painted a clear picture for you about the University of London Law's programs at AAU. So now I'm going to turn it back over to Rebecca to conclude. But of course, I will be here to answer any of your questions. And I'm very happy to talk via email or Skype about any questions you may have later as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Carol-Ann. I'm going to turn my video on while we answer questions, just because I feel that it's usually better that you can look at a person as opposed to a black screen. Yes, here's Carol-Ann as well. I see that we have one question in chat already, so I'll go ahead and open that. If there are any others, I do ask you to please put them in the question and answer tool, just so that we can keep track of them. However, this being said, the first question is, good day, just to be sure. I have a question regarding the content of the program. Does it consist only of components of common law? With degree-gained graduates can also seek a job in continental Europe or family law countries. So Carolyn, this would be for you.
Sure, so thank you very much. So the courses are primarily common law. That is very true, but not only common law. So as I said, I'll kind of walk you through just the main standard entry LLB quickly again, because I think then I can explain each of the courses. So in the first year, it would be criminal law, which is definitely common law based, contract law, also common law based, and public law, which is basically British constitutional law. So that one's common law based as well. But that one does get into some other systems and doctrines as well, including the European human rights law, for example. So once you get into public law, then we start getting a little bit more of that maybe continental European law. But it is from a British constitutional law perspective. Then the course Legal Systems and Methods, that one does deal with a lot of different jurisdictions. Of course, it's still rooted in the UK, but it's looking a bit more at a comparative standpoint. Then in the second year, you would take torts, which is almost exclusively UK. We dabble a little bit in the US, but US law, but not very much. Then EU law is, as it says, EU law. So that one is not based in the UK. So that is based on the legal system of the European Union. Then property law, very heavily UK based. So it's really looking at the system of law that developed with property basically from, I don't know, the past 1,000 years or so. So it's really looking at a lot of the kind of the history, but the modern developments of property law in the UK. Then there's an option for an elective. So one of those, for example, could be international human rights law, which is certainly international and really just touches briefly here and there on UK law. If you take something like commercial law, that is going to be based more heavily in the UK, for example. In the final year, students take jurisprudence, which is legal philosophy. So that's not just based on the UK, but really based on legal scholars and philosophers over really the past several hundred years. So that's a little bit more broad. And equity and trusts, definitely based in the UK again. Then there's the option for 2 electives. One of those, for example, could be international commercial law, where you would look a lot more at international laws, and public international law, certainly looking at the system of international law from around the world, not UK based hardly at all. And something like dissertation, then of course, you could also get in and focus on an area that's not covering UK law. So yes, it's mostly UK law, but there's definitely parts that are getting more international and looking at other perspectives as well. As far then to answer the question of seeking a job in continental Europe, yes, you can get in and practice in continental Europe. With the changes of Brexit, we're all kind of waiting and seeing, to be honest, on how that will play out. I can't give you a definitive answer because I don't think one exists yet. Generally speaking, though, it is possible for a lawyer with a non-European law degree to practice in the Czech Republic, for example. There's just another path. So we have several colleagues from, the US, from Italy, from jurisdictions around the world who are also practicing attorneys here in the Czech Republic, but they've just gone through the process that's required for foreign lawyers. So that's absolutely possible. If I understand family, you say European law, family countries, I'm not sure if I'm answering that part quite correctly, but it kind of popped in my mind. So if you're talking about practicing family law in a European jurisdiction, I will be very honest with you that you would be better off going to a law school in that jurisdiction and learning family law there. There are some areas of law, such as family law, criminal law is probably one of them, where it really is important to have gone to law school in the jurisdiction where you want to practice. So I'll be very honest with you, and I would never encourage a student whose goal was to practice family law in Germany to come here to AAU, because we're not going to be able to prepare you to the level that you would need. It would be better for you to go to Germany. We'd love to have you here, so I don't want to discourage, but I want all of our students to come here knowing what the degree will give them, and I want them to have a good plan of how to use that degree afterwards. So that's really important to me.
Perfect. So we got a thank you so much. That's what I needed to clarify. So excellent. Well answered, Carol Ann. Thank you. Otherwise, if nobody else has any questions, then we would like to sincerely thank you for joining us today. We do understand that often when we're in a webinar environment such as this, it can be a bit overwhelming to get so much information at once. And it's only after, when you've had some time to reflect, that you realize you had a few questions you didn't get a chance to ask. If that happens, please email us. We're always here and we are always happy to help you no matter what. There's no need to think, oh no, I missed my chance. Absolutely, we're here for you. Additionally, I know that one of the big concerns right now with the majority of our students worldwide is what's going to happen with the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic in terms of if regulations are changing and if they can still apply normally. So right now, just so that you know, from an admissions perspective, yes, please apply normally. We are proceeding as usual, full steam ahead. If you're from a country where you're unable to get a visa, this is not a problem. We will have asynchronous classes online. If you are able to get a visa, you can absolutely join us. We are hoping to proceed as normal. So hopefully that will assuage any fears with the admissions process. Otherwise, like I said, sincerely, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Carol Ann, for giving us your time today. And I hope that all of you have a lovely weekend. And please email if you have any additional questions. Carol Ann, is there anything you'd like to say or happy?
I think that actually I do have one other thing that popped in my head when I thought with COVID-19, of course, I do want to add into that with the asynchronous classes, we will make sure that our students who are not able to come to Prague but are in the law program are still able to engage with classes, engage with the instructors. It will be run basically as if you're in class, but the only difference will be that you're sitting on your computer in your living room. So it'll be a little bit different, but you'll still have full access to the other students, to your instructors, to everything there. One other point of note that I mentioned the uncertainty of Brexit, which a lot of people have been a little bit concerned about. And while we don't have all of the answers to what will happen after that, one important thing to note with the University of London program is that it is taught all over the world. So this LLB is taught in Bangladesh and Ghana and, in Canada and India, I mean, really everywhere. So it's not, Brexit is not so much of a concern I think for our students who are studying this degree, because it is something that's valued worldwide. So the only thing that we've been unsure about is whether or not we'll be required to continue teaching EU law. But for the foreseeable time being, we have no intention of not teaching that. So I suppose for us, that's the only big question, one of the only main ones. So that's all I had to add.
Perfect, thank you.
So, thank you all very much.
I would like to add just on a personal note for all of you, Caroline did mention that it's, being in the asynchronous classes online, it's as if you're still there. I am a student in addition to working for the school, and so I can attest from my own experience having taken online courses. Yes, you may feel, oh no, I want to be in a classroom, and of course a classroom is better, but it is absolutely true that all of your professors and the other students are still 100% available. It's actually been kind of surprising how easy the transition has been. So if anyone is worried about that, I would like to personally assuage your fears. Obviously, it's not ideal, but I think that we've been doing a very good job of making sure that everyone is still very connected. So it's not something that you need to be too nervous about. So that being said, yes, please email us with any other questions you had. And thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Bye, everyone.